Teachers of Reddit, what was the most obvious? Your parents clearly did the askignment. I taught elementary art classes for a few years, and a lot of time would have crossover lessons with certain subjects. One year we had the second graders do a project for their unit on Native Americans, where they had to make dioramas of a type of Native American house of their choosing, and then write a little 2-paragraph essay on who lived in that style of house and why it was built that way. Most kids made tipis or wigwams out of construction paper and birch bark and paper towel rolls. We had a few kids who were clearly getting help from their parents, but it was obvious the kid had input and done the essay. Standard stuff. Then we had a kid come in with, I shit you not, a completely accurate model of Cliff Palace, Colorado. It was stunning. Turns out, his dad was a sculptor, and his mom worked at our local museum, as a restoration expert. Penmanship. No kidding, kid had the maid write it. When the student came in crying while holding the project and when asked what happened she announced that she was frustrated that her mom did the whole project. It looked nothing like how she wanted it to, and wasn't allowed to really do anything on it. This wasn't the first askignment that came in from this student that was clearly done by the mom, but the student finally had had enough of having her education taken from her. 6th grade research project that ended in a 3-page paper. One kid turned in a 10-page paper. And it definitely wasn't a bad attempt at plagiarism. It kind of felt like the mom was missing her own academic years. English as a foreign language teacher here. During lockdown last year a student sent in a test that had much better work than he usually did. When I googled his words, sure enough, he had copied it by mashing the first part of sentences from one source to the second part of sentences from another source. It did at least make sense, but it was still not his work. When I confronted him about cheating he said, I don't think I cheated, 'cause my mom helped me with it and she wouldn't cheat. This discovery was a collaboration between me and another teacher. The student in question submitted an askignment that showed no cohesion or ability to connect ideas. Told me about how to make detergent from kiwi fruit in 500 words. The task was a 1,500-word askignment on a DNA extraction experiment, and then the same week submitted a standard askignment to their psychology teacher with excellent flow, arguments and great conceptual synthesis. I had a student hand in an askignment on Google Docs. Most was written by his dad. How did I know? His dad was logged in while writing it, so it showed up on the edit history. The worst part is the dad is one of the askignment principals. Tears of joy. Classmate of mine read out her home WRK to the class. Structural sexism of a small town in our area. She kept talking about the Jufra structure. Turns out her mom had written the entire thing in cursive and the girl was unaware of the word infrastructure. 12-year-old kid brings in a beautiful galleon. All the other kids' galleons look like they are cut out of styrofoam using a butter knife, or some kind of strange 50-50 amalgamation of cardboard and hot glue. And then there's this kid with a wooden galleon, complete with rigging, cloth sails, a stand. After talking to him I finally get him to admit that his parents had gone to a shop and ordered a custom-made ship. What the heck? Not a teacher, but in middle school I procrastinated as most kids do and forgot about project to make a brochure about a country. My parents stayed up all night helping me, doing the majority of it. Years later underclassmen would tell me that same teacher would pull my project out every year and tell them what hard work looks like. Middle school science project. Kid came in with a crude internal combustion engine, having previously failed science 3 quarters in a row. Not quite a parent per se, but in Kuwait, there's an entire industry based around doing students' projects for them. Science, English, Arabic projects, whatever. Every project gets a big, beautiful billboard made by some Indian guy in a print shop. It's really easy to tell, too. You just ask the kid literally any question about the project. This word in the title, what does it mean? Can you read it to the class? Fumbles every single word, and what does it mean? Like I just said. Okay, can you summarize it in Arabic for the class? Says in Arabic to the class that he has no idea what the project is talking about. Wow, how long did you spend on this? I didn't. I had someone else do it. You're not supposed to tell me that. Multiple students. For every project. Obligatory. Not a teacher, but in grade 3 we had to build the classic volcano that erupts bicarb soda lava. I did the entire thing myself, refusing help from my parents. I walked into class so proud of what I'd made and then saw everyone else's clearly made by their parents. One kid's even had fake smoke coming out of his, like bro we're 7 years old, it's okay. Their grammar was magically perfect and they grew in intellect overnight. Not a teacher, but I remember my classmate got caught faking his science fair project. In all his pictures, only the hands could be seen throughout the experiment. What gave it away was that the hands were white with a tattoo on the left hand, while the kid in question was African American. It was hilarious watching him defend himself. I'm an ESL teacher. The homework was to draw the items that were written, to check understanding, and the class was full of 5-year-olds. One kid's work was completed with some perfectly drawn pictures, in the style of the textbook they used. I straight up asked the kid in their native language if they drew it. They said no and proceeded to do some shockingly bad tracing of the alphabet in class. As a student, I remember in woodworking that we have to make a foldable chair that we have to work on the whole SEM. In the end mine was a ducking safety hazard, aka it can be sit upon but there's like nails ready to skewer your ass. Scared to submit that I literally bought new materials outside class and let my dad do it. Teacher was shocked on how good it was and questioned my authenticity. In the end I confessed that it was my dad, but my teacher's ego was so high, probably thinking he can humiliate me in front of class, so he told me to bring the original chair. He sat on it and punctured his ass and fell because the chair did not support HOS weight. I got suspended not because I hurt him but because I was cheating LMAO. The email from the parent. I worked very hard on this essay and I think you'll agree that if XXX had attempted it, it would have been of a much lower standard. Please score on the quality of the response, not the authorship. No? Student couldn't explain one thing from his homework. The circles were perfect circles. I work with first grade special education kids. It's a lot harder to tell when the parents are doing the project as the kids get older. Kids from year 7 to 10, it's generally very easy to pick up. As a teacher you're pretty aware of their reading and writing level, so when they write things light years beyond their comprehension it's so easy to pick up. But the older kids in year 11 to 12 are harder to pick up because by this time they've generally got really decent writing skills and their work turns from high school rubbish to genuine amateur academic papers really quick. But one tip I have is just to read their paper and give them a quick fire on the spot question and ask them what a word means. If they don't know it they get all embarrassed and generally confess to it. Lol. I can't believe at 18 I taught kids who made their parents do their work. Not a teacher, but I remember one. An assignment in a language class involved audio recordings, not like a video, but something pre-recorded at home to present to the class. One student obviously had her mother speak the entire thing. In one bit you could actually hear her voice in the background while her mom was talking into the mic. Not a teacher, but in 9th grade we were assigned a 10-page essay about life during the Vietnam War. I went to a prep school and was taking way too many honors classes, extracurriculars, ECT. I broke down 3 days before the essay was due and asked my mom to help me. She wrote the most beautiful essay I've ever read. She used lyrics from Bye, Miss American Pie, and wove them into her real-life experiences. My teacher was moved to tears when she read it. I honestly have no idea how she thought it was the work of a 9th grader, but I was super grateful for the A+. According to my cousin, the same teacher is still using the paper as her best example of student work, almost 12 years later. His dad accidentally wrote his own name on the paper. I tortured the kid for a week by calling him by his dad's name. Ah, good times. The assignment was to draw your family tree. It's grade 4, so, as far back as you can go just to understand the concept might be 3 or 4 generations. Now the student had a very unique name. It was over 10 letters long and he, as yet, had not mastered writing it down. This was due to being removed from school for weeks on end to vacation. He was also removed, sick, for any and all testing. I had absolutely no support from the principal to get this kid an education. The parents were rich and influential. *lol5 The project was handed in and student really wowed us. The tree was so lifelike, he had been able to trace back 9 generations. This kid can't write his own name but he can do calligraphy. He can also sign his mother's name to the bottom of the print.